thank you all for joining us for Taxpayer Tuesday. We think this is a really special one. This topic came specifically out of a tour last year when we were doing a tour, and as we were on the tour talking about high school in general for Taxpayer Tuesday, we had a lot of questions about the CTE programs and that specific funding. So we thought it would be really great to kind of focus on that today and spend more time talking both specifically about the programs that we have and then also talking about how those programs are funded. So we think this should be a really exciting topic for y'all. Thank you all for turning out. I want to introduce two people. We have Elaine Cogburn, who's our Deputy Superintendent. She's over Finance and Operations, so she's going to be talking about that side of it. We also have Dr. Karen Kidd, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Learning and Innovation, and so she's going to be talking about the educational and instructional side of it. So I'm going to hand it over to them to get started.
All right, good morning, everybody. I see a lot of new faces in the room, so the first part of this might lose you, so I'm going to go through it slowly because you have to kind of understand state funding for schools to understand how the CTE portion of that fits in. So for our agenda today, we're going to have a quick school finance overview. There's nothing quick about school finance, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. How funding for special programs works through those formulas. And then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kidd, and she's going to talk about the CTE programs and the curriculum and the programs of study that are currently prescribed by TEA. So state funding is determined by a set of formulas, and there are a lot of formulas, but the basic concept is the Foundation School Program provides the funding, and funding is allocated to school districts based on the number of kids they have and the type of kids. And so when I say the type of kids, are your students in career and technology programs? Are they in GT? Are they in bilingual programs, comp ed, all of those different programs that we offer depending on the student needs. And then we look at the district's property values and tax collections. How much can the local school district fund of the amount they're entitled to earn, and then other demographic factors in the district. So each student is currently worth $6,160 per year. This was set in 2019 under House Bill 3, and no, it has not been adjusted for inflation. Are you paying the same for groceries and gas that you were paying in 2019? Probably not. And so this last legislative session, there was a big push to get the state to increase that basic allotment. Those measures failed, and so we're still at $6,160. On top of that, per student, and that's if the student attends every single day. So every day that a student doesn't attend, that amount is reduced. Then the state looks at what kind of students do you have in your district, and they give us what we call weighted funding for those additional types of students. So a special ed student, depending on what special ed services the student is receiving, they're going to generate more funding. We're talking today about career and technology. So again, career and technology is broken through different values. So one course might generate, I'm just going to make up a number, $1, and another course might generate another $1.50. Then all of the other special programs that you see here. So when we look at this, because I say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So think about it as this funnel. So we're going to start with that regular program allotment, $6,160. Then all these other areas generate more funding or allotments. So if you're a fast growth school district, you get what is called fast growth allotment. That too is tiered based on where you fall in the state compared to every other district. And then just things like dyslexia, bilingual, early education, those are a per student amount. And so the one we're going to talk about today is career and technology. So when you add all of these things up, that becomes your total Tier 1 allotment. It can be referred to as your entitlement or your Tier 1 cost. So all of these calculations tell us what our Tier 1 funding is going to be. Then the question becomes, who's going to pay for that funding? And so that Tier 1 entitlement, this big circle, is all of those student counts put in and run through the formulas. Then the state gives all school districts a small amount called the Available School Fund. And then the state looks at what do your local tax collections bring in. And so if your tax collections after the available school fund don't fully cover the circle, then state aid comes in the form of the Foundation School Program. In Dripping Springs, we have our available school fund, and then we have our tax collections that fund the entire pie. But what else happens in Dripping Springs? We pay, our tax collections exceed the size of this circle, and so those collections go back as recapture. So one thing that happened in all of the legislation from last summer through the election in November is your homestead exemption increased, and if your values were frozen, then you got adjustment for the tax rate compression that's happened since 2019. So that did shrink our total tax collections because we're collecting less taxes, but it didn't shrink it enough to totally get out of recapture. So we're still in recapture, but to a smaller amount. So where does the special funding come into this? So we're going to switch sides because it's hard to read from over there. So within that Foundation School Program, remember there's that allotment for career and tech. So the career and tech allotment is intended to allow districts to provide a wide variety of CTE programs. And you're going to see when we tour today some of the programs that we offer here at the high school. These courses generate additional funding, and that funding is so that we can buy the technology and the equipment needed for these programs, because obviously it costs a lot more to offer an auto tech program than it does to teach English. You've got books versus large equipment. And so we tell the state what programs our students are participating through the PEAMS system, where we submit to TEA. All school districts and charters do this. We submit all of the information on our students, all of the information on our staff, our budget numbers. So the state has a lot of information about us, and so PEAMS is very important because that's how the state determines our funding. The interesting part is, you saw it in the circle diagram, our taxes are funding our entire program. Even though that is the case, we have to use those funds in the programs that are generating them. So remember, that circle gets bigger or smaller based on the programs that we offer, and so the state wants to make sure that the funds that are generated by certain students are spent on those same students. So even though the majority of our program, or all of our programs, are funded through tax collections, we still have to spend in these areas. So what that means is, if we didn't have any CTE programs, we wouldn't generate those dollars and we wouldn't have to spend it in that area, but because we offer those programs, we get funding. There's also federal funding for CTE. This is pretty minimal for us. It's between $35,000 to $45,000 a year. But that is federal dollars that are flowed down through the state to support CTE. And those federal funds can only be used to support courses that are in the state program of study, and Dr. Kidd is going to talk about those. So you know I'm not going to talk about school finance without some numbers. So this chart represents what we generate in CTE funding each of the last 4 years. So the student participation numbers, these are not actual whole students. So think about, a student is going to maybe have 2 of their sections in a CTE program, and then they're going to have other programs in their schedule. So when you look at the amount of their schedule compared to the total classes, that's how you get the FTEs. So this doesn't mean that there's 424 students taking CTE programs. There's many more, but when you convert it to a full-time equivalent student, these are the numbers, and you'll see that participation is growing each year because we offer more, students become more interested in programs, etc. So when we weight all of those students and apply them through the formulas, this is the revenues that we were generating from those programs. So it's grown to $4.2 million last year. Well, remember I said the state says you have to spend the dollars on the students that generate them. So for CTE, we have to spend 55% of these dollars in CTE. It's a 3-year average, and if you don't spend it in that area, you potentially have to send money back to the state. So that's a situation we never want to get in. So when we budget, we always look at what is our forecasted revenues, how much do we need to allocate to that program. And so I will tell you, when I first came to the district in 2013, we were not spending enough on CTE, and so I had to allocate a pretty big chunk to that program. And we monitor this each year, and each year we allocate more to CTE to make sure we spend the required percentage. So the minimum spend, the 55%, is represented here. You'll notice here, 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 our actual expenditures were slightly under that. Well, within that PEAM system, we have a lot of expenditures that don't get allocated to anything in particular. Think about the high school principal. We don't allocate her salary part to special ed, part to career tech, part to regular ed, part to athletics. We use a code called 99 that says she is impacting all of the campus. All of those costs that are coded with a 99 get reallocated to these special programs. So even though we were below an actual, once we do the allocation, we meet this minimum, and so we're okay. Now, I can't let this actual get too far below the 55%, because then that 99 allocation won't meet it. But as long as we're close, I know that those general expenditures that are campus-wide will get us to our minimum spend. So the point to this is last year we earned 4.2, we spent 2.7. What happened to the rest of the money that was generated by CTE kids? It just helped with our overall budget. And so CTE is not the only program that we monitor this from that first list. So GT, bilingual, special ed, all of those special programs, we do the same monitoring of to make sure we're budgeting enough to meet the minimum spend. So this might be a little fuzzy, but I wanted to see, well, what does our spending look like compared to other districts like us? So first, I pulled our local peers. So these are districts in our area. So you've got Dripping Springs, Eanes, Hayes, Lago Vista, Lake Travis, San Marcos, and Wimberley. So Dripping Springs is this blue line. So this is 2017 going all the way to 2022. So you can see our expenditures as a percentage of the total budget are pretty steady, and our actual dollars per student, they flow based on the students in the program. But when you compare to our area districts, you've got Wimberley and San Marcos up here and Hayes spending more per student than we are, and then the same as the percentage of total operating expenditures. So I know that Hayes is a lot larger than us. San Marcos is a little further away. So then I also look at our demographic peers. So these are districts that are similar to our size, similar to our student makeup, and so the list gets a little bit longer. You've got Alamo Heights, Aledo, Bernie, Coppell, Eanes, Lake Travis, Liberty Hill. So not necessarily in our immediate area, but more like us as far as student numbers and student type. And again, as far as actual dollars per student, we're in the lower half, and then this percentage of operating expenditures about in the middle. So you've got some districts spending less as a percentage of their total on CTE, and you've got some districts spending more. Same when you look at expenditures per student. Some districts spend more. This would be Friendswood, Melissa, ISD, and Liberty Hill, and then some spending less, Eanes and Alamo Heights. And so we would really need to dig into what programs are they offering, what are their expenditures looking like to fully analyze that, but this just shows we're about average compared to our peers. All right, now the fun stuff, the curriculum portion of it.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about CTE programming and the curriculum and course offerings, and I have helpers here Ms. Gomez obviously is our campus principal. We also have Josh Kaiser, who helps and leads the CTE department. So if I need to phone a friend, I'm going to look back there and they're going to answer any hard questions that you have. Okay, so first, before I start, do y'all know the 4 C's of learning? It's kind of old, like the, okay, I'll just tell you what the 4 C's of learning are. You don't want to take a step. Critical thinking. These are skills that we want our students to be able to do to be contributing members of society and live our vision for the district. Be creative thinkers, right? Communicate and collaborate. Those are how to be successful. I made up, this is all my own thing, of CTE 4 C's. What it offers kids is choice. We look at competencies, getting skills. We look at also cost savings for families, and then career pathways. So I just made that up. If you're a CTE director, you might think of completer, right? Those are students that are taking multiple courses in sequence. A concentrator, somebody who finishes the whole pathway and concentrates on one pathway. Certification and coherent sequence. You're probably like, what is she talking about? Overall, CTE provides amazing opportunities for students. And we have these different pathways, career pathways, that are going to have some helpers pass these out. Thank you, Josh. That just kind of highlight what we currently offer and then the courses that go with that, along with the IBC or the industry-based certification, and then where it falls with our endorsements. So what you'll see today in your tour, you'll see some students that are participating in science, technology, engineering, math, or STEM. You'll see kids taking agriculture, maybe, some courses there. I don't know what exactly we're going to go see. They tried to find stuff where good things were happening in the classroom today. AV Tech, Business Marketing, Finance, Health Sciences, Law, and Public Service. And we allow our students the choice. So there is a component in our accountability on CCMR, which is College Career Military Readiness. We don't focus on that. We really want to focus on what interests our kids the most. That's where we want them to focus and concentrate. So what is amazing about CTE is it actually improves your graduation rate. It engages students in school like you wouldn't believe, because it's hands-on learning. It's the essence of how we learn. We learn by doing. CTE courses are actually doing the work that you would see out in a career. So it's pretty exciting. Even if they're college-bound students, having that experience in a career or getting the certification could help them gain the skills they need to be successful in college and maybe even get a job in their certified area to support a higher wage. Instead of working at Whataburger, you might want to work at a pharmacy making $25 an hour versus $9 an hour. Whatever they're paying out. It's real-world applications, which is why it's near and dear to my heart. How many of you, when you went to high school, had these kind of opportunities? Okay, you young ones, put your hands up. I really do, because I was in HECE, which is Home Economics, Cooperative Education, back in the day, a while ago. They were basically, you'd get out of school, that's it. You didn't take any extra courses, and I worked in the daycare, because I knew I wanted to be a teacher, right? But there was no extra courses. Here, our students are actually learning skills and then applying them in the real world and getting those certifications, which is really good. Sometimes these courses afford kids to find out what they don't want to do in college, right? It gives them, and it helps our pocketbooks as parents to say, okay, you tried that health science course, or you tried doing something with marketing and that's not your jam, good, we didn't have to waste any money going to college for that. So we like to offer our students opportunities to learn and get those industry-based credentials and certifications. Sometimes TEA has their own list, well this is all the time, they have their own list of what counts. Again, we're going to go with what our students need for the field, not just because it's going to help us on accountability. If it helps us on accountability, great, that's a win-win. But we're always going to go with what the students' interests are, which is creating that individualized pathway to what so they can envision their career and their future, whether it's college, career, or military. So, why do we do this? Why is this important? Well, the Texas Education Hire Board has the strategic plan that says Texans ages 25 to 35 by the year 2030, 60% of them will either have a degree or a certificate. Our kids are well on their way. Our CCMR, College Career Military Readiness percentage, is 74% already, and it's not 2023. So what we're learning from what our interests for our kids are, how we program for those interests, we'll just keep increasing that number. And we'll far surpass this strategic plan. This was something that was started in 2015. It's measured by TEA with certain indicators. There's the college path, which is advanced credit, advanced placement, dual credit, TSI, any kind of test taking. Then there's career. We look at CTE as that career side. What skills and certifications do you have for that? For this next year coming up, TEA is revamping some of these career pathways that you have the sheet on. They're renaming some things. They're putting some things like STEM, they're going to put under business and industry and try to shore that up a little bit more. So TEA has several programs that were approved study that we could do. We already have a lot of these. Some of these we're looking at. This is a great opportunity for us while we're still one high school to look at what else our students might want to be interested in as we prepare for programming for our second high school. So we're really interested in what do our kids want to do? What does our community want to see out there? We're going to find that, oh, we already do that. Check, 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 check. Maybe we need to offer different courses under those. We offer most of these construction, I've heard, might be of interest to some of our students. That would be HVAC, electrical, that sort of thing. So we're looking at what does that look like in other school districts. We also have energy and hospitality and tourism is really big, that culinary arts under hospitality. Our area is in wedding capital of Texas, so it might be something our students really want to focus in on, so we'll be looking at that as well. Health sciences is a very strong program for us, as is our business pathway. Human services, and then information technology, law and public service, and manufacturing. As you can tell, we already have a lot of these for our students to choose from. It's just fine-tuning and aligning these pathways for our kids. Transportation, that's where that automotive sits. It kind of sits there by itself, so what else can we add to that to help our students get into that? And of course, science, technologies, those STEM fields. Okay? So anybody have any questions for either the programming curriculum or the money side of things?
How many kids are involved?
More than 20%. Anything that CCMR is always 2 years lagging. So for right now, today's numbers would be what? A lot. Whether they're taking one class or in a pathway, a finisher, they're going to get you that number. My number's old because it's 2 years old. Good question. Yes, sir.
I think I misunderstood. I thought all the money that came in for CTE had to be spent on the students, and yeah, it was 55% funding, so I think I got something.
55% is the required spend amount.
Oh.
And that's pretty consistent among all of those areas. I think GT is 100%, special ed is 55%. And of course on special ed we spend way more than our allotment.
Do you have a number for me, Josh?
Yeah, currently as of right now, 2,455 students are in the CT course.
And you're probably thinking, wow, that's every student in this building. Sometimes they might count twice for 2 different courses, right? Yeah. Any other questions?
So the student who isn't necessarily in the full program could take one monthly.
That's elective. So in Texas, you need 26 credits to graduate, right? Some kids would like to choose that as an elective to take. Maybe they're not a CTE student that's going to go through a pathway, but it's more of an elective that can do that as well.
So it sounds like there can be a hybrid approach where you're on a college prep and also
absolutely
maybe in a stream.
Yes. That's the beautiful thing is we don't want to pigeonhole kids into making a decision. Remember, you pick this, and as an 8th grader, you pick what your endorsement's going to be, what you're going to look at. That's a fluid, flexible thing where we're not going to say, no, you picked it as an 8th grader, sorry, you're going to have to take all these courses now. It changes all the time, and our counselors just spoke to our incoming freshmen just last week about what that looks like, and I kept hearing them say, don't worry, we got you, this is going to change, you're going to change your mind, and that's okay because ultimately what it does is it better prepares them when they get finished with high school to make the decisions that are next for them, whether that's going to be going right into a career or going to college.
Do you know the difference in the percentage of kids that are on a college-bound track versus a CCMR track?
I can guess. I can get you a better number later. We have a lot of kids that do both. Honestly, we have a lot of kids that finish their certification classes and they're heading off to college. It's a great way to maximize your financial income if you have to work through college, to have that certification while you're taking classes. So we have a lot of our kids that are doing both. I wouldn't say that we only have one area or another. I don't even know if I can find that percentage, but we
Well, at one point we classified as like 95% college-bound. And so I'm always curious to know, like, what's the prep plan for the 5, 6, 7% who we're not classifying as college-bound? Like, what is their skill set to take out? So I'm always curious to know, like, what is the discrepancy, like, in those two numbers? I just think it's interesting, like, as a community.
And sometimes maybe they're not college-bound right after high school. Maybe they take a little bit of time, they go into that field and learn a little bit more, and then something that they experienced in school is something they want to pursue. The state does have, and I'm sure our counselors look at it all the time, is a form that kind of highlights, we were looking at it just the other day, about careers, the projection for our area, the level of education you would need, and it's everything. You can alphabetize it, maybe
What the average salary is, what the demand for that role is. It's very interesting.
There are some that don't need any schooling or any degree or just a certificate or a bachelor's or an associate's. What's great about just the choice that we afford kids would be, we do dual credit, but we also have certifications. We're giving them a leg up and an advantage. And I think we have solid programming, comparatively speaking, with other districts that maybe are just starting on this journey. I think we try to touch on most of the pathways that the state said these are good to go with. We have a little bit of everything. We can always look at doing things a little bit differently while we open up that second high school to say what's needed and how do we reprogram what we currently have, so that we always have growing programs that are interesting to our students. Any other questions?
Maybe just a quick comment, and hold me to the quick. It seems like, so when you're in college, ideally you get an internship in your chosen field. I think that still goes on today. It almost seems like this is an opportunity to almost like have an internship, get some real work experience, either to augment that as you go into college, or an early opportunity to decide whether this is really for you or not. So I really like this.
Absolutely. I've heard many high school students in various settings say, I thought I wanted to do X, and I took a course and did an internship and figured out I don't want to do that at all, and have the opportunity to switch. And so that's powerful when you're not already in that track in college and spending those college dollars to have already figured out what is not for you.
Yep.
All right, are we doing note cards for questions as we tour?
Yeah, we can. I mean, there's cards and pens on your table if you want to grab one as we walk. It's a pretty long tour, and so if you have questions, if you jot them down, and make sure to either answer them at the end or get back to you personally, but we want to make sure that y'all are able to see all of their pathways, so can we move back in here, right? Yeah, we'll make a loop, I think. Josh is our tour guide.
All right.